Welcome to Mental Wealth, the podcast to invest in your mind. Here I will help you make sense of your mind and behaviours, giving you the tools to have your best life. There is so much to share, so let's get into this episode and explore another great topic. Welcome to episode 42. And in this episode, I am delighted to say I'm sharing a space with a very special lady who I met in a networking event. And we're going to talk about some of the darker days, but maybe hopefully inspiring you to move and do something different in those days. So let me introduce my special guest today, Nicky Pattinson. Hello and welcome.
Well, and let's hope that you're equally as delighted when we get to end of this, Alison. You've not all come to see me in a private hospital or in hospital, and I'm not actually in bed. I'm on my way to Johannesburg to work, so I'm just in an airport hotel, going over to the terminal in a bit.
I love it.
I'll so very for you all.
Yeah, we're very blessed to have you here as you are jetting off to South Africa. And you are a connection expert, aren't you? But you are so much more than that. Tell everyone a little bit more about who you are.
I had to become a connection expert. I'm basically not the shiniest button on the jacket. I can't count. I can't organise things. I did a little TikTok yesterday because I was trying. It took me 2 days to try and pack for a week. But my brain wouldn't compute it. And I actually set off to the train station, got there and went back home again, changed the train. And I had to get somebody to help me pack because my brain wouldn't do it. And I knew that I'd not done it right. So I'm not the shiniest button on the jacket, but I learned very quickly what made the world go round. It's not how many qualifications you've got. My son is a master of this and God knows what. But I always said to him, that won't get you very far, darling. It's how you make people feel in your unique presence. That's the golden keys these days. So first job, working as a shoe shop girl, could sell more shoes in one day than anybody else could sell in a week. Kind of going through different incarnations, which we do. We all evolve. It's not 1942 where you get one job and stay there. And I guess, we all have pivotal moments in your life. And I met my lovely ex-husband at a party. And 2 months later, we'd got a market stall in Huddersfield doing £1,000 a week. And in 2 years, we'd created a £2 million a year business. And we were 10% more expensive than anybody else for exactly the same stock. Now, how did we do it? Because I watched every wink of the eye, every wave of the hand, what had people stood in our queue, the way we moved, the way we used our voice, the body language, what we said. It was all very thought out. And, as a market trader, you had to learn that. You had to become a master of instantly activating people within 2 seconds to stand and talk to you and buy something that they got no idea that they were ever going to buy, that pound of biscuits. So, it's kind of been my fortune. I lost everything, as in all good stories. Long story. My son died, Jackson, negligence at nursery. My mum died, my dad died. Let's just say there were no money in the bank. I was divorced. Creditors came at me. Lost everything. Ended up in a little cottage with a 4-year-old son. But Alison, I still had what I learned on the markets. And I modified it and I reapply it everywhere from lawyers to supermarkets.
Love it. Love it. And I think I remember seeing you speak when I first met you, Nicky, and just that sort of relatable, wherever you are, wherever you're starting from, anyone listening today, wherever you're starting from, there's a point, isn't there, that you can start? Because I hear people say often, I don't know how to, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to go. And we don't always, do we? We don't always know what to do and where to go, but just hearing that journey that you've been on, and I also have my own journey that I talk a lot about, and just hopefully being able to help everyone go, it's okay, and we can start wherever we start. But I think something that you said before we came on was about those dark days and what we get from those, because again, there's a lot of people out there who have many dark days, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, because I think it's a refreshing space to be in.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I'd like to comment on what you just said. So it finds you. If you don't know where to start, you become it, and it finds you. So I had COVID, thought I were dying, got long COVID, didn't work for 18 months. And what I do now found me. There is no question. You become it. You don't chase anything. Anything you chase in your life, you ain't going to catch it. You become it, and then it finds you. And it's almost like a miracle. It really is. It's, what do you want to feel like? Who do you want to be? Who do you want to meet? You become it, and it finds you. But let's talk about those dark days, because, everybody thinks when they meet me that, oh, yeah, she must always be like that. Nah. When my son died, negligence at nursery, it was just, as anyone who has lost children, I don't need to explain that to you. When I lost everything, my marriage split up, blah, 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 I was left with nothing and a 4-year-old boy. There were some days that I was just engulfed in grief, because my identity was that I would, inherit what would have been many millions now. And, that it didn't really matter, because that were me. I'd kind of had an identity. And then at age 38, I had nothing. And I was a single parent on benefit with a 4-year-old boy. I still have my dreams. My dreams were bigger than my fears. So those dark days actually saved me. And let me explain what I mean. Anybody who is a creative person will understand. So you access parts of yourself when you just sat there with your head in your hands that you could never dream of accessing when you're out, doing the big, the big life thing. And I had a chance to ask myself who I really was. Was I that person that I've been told I was? Was I actually thick? Or had I created, a sales function in that market stall business that had changed everything? Was I actually a bad person? Were I stupid? All the things that I'd been called. And then I started to write it all down and realize that actually, no, I wasn't. And from that minute, everything changed. But I had to ask myself, Nicky, who have you become? Who are you going to be? And now, if I get those dark days, I'll always get a pen out. And that's where some of the best ideas come from. And do you know what I've just thought of? I think where that comes from, Alison, I think about how can I help the people who feel like me today? So I write it down and I find the answers, and then I package it up and I put it in my programs. Because it's from freaking real life, not a freaking book I read. It's from actually having my own head in my own hands and crying that much you can't get out of chuff in bed. So I hope that kind of answers your question. But yeah, from some of my great downs have come my best work. But also, when I feel better and I'm out there again, I appreciate it so much. I can't tell you.
Yeah, I love that. And I think just hearing you say that, and it is something I talk about, we can distract ourselves when we feel low, when we feel frightened. Sometimes that's the right thing to do, isn't it? But sometimes I'm often saying to people, just sit with it. Just sit with it. Just like you say, write about it, walk, scream into the pillow, go out onto the top of a mountain and scream it out, whatever it is that you need to do. Because you're right. And I've had that for me also many times, where the most unusual link to how you're feeling thing comes out, and you think that determination, that thing of like, do you know what? No, I'm going to do this thing. I mean, I set up my business. I left the NHS after 24 years. I had a safe job, a pension, all these things. And I just left literally overnight, and people around me were saying, you're mad. But I knew. I just knew. And that was 14 years ago.
Oh, do you know I had a similar experience because I were 45, had a brilliant job, company BMW, you know, plenty of cash. That was a long story of how I got that as well, you know, after my big demise. And at age 45, I was selling design for a design agency, but I brought in Nike, crikey, Swarovski, big international companies, just by ringing them up, basically. But anyway, modifying what I'd learned on the markets and reapplying it to working on the phone to get meetings. But yeah, I woke up at 45 and I thought, well, I could get a meeting with God to rebrand Evan today and I wouldn't feel it. And within a few hours, I jacked in my cards. Car went and I was sat there going, right. Yeah, we've had its ups and downs, but it was definitely the right thing. Again, it finds you. It finds you.
Yeah. I think as well that risk that people worry about, you know, like you say, giving up your safety, giving up your car. I mean, I worked in the NHS, so we never had anything like that. But, you know, you were still giving up your security and your safe pension. But actually, when you do it, that's where almost that thing happens, doesn't it? Where it's like, right, okay, this is serious. And I think there's lots of people who do feel nervous to take that big step because they don't really know how they're going to manage without the thing they used to have, but also what does the other thing look like? What kind of things do you think people need to pay attention to when they know they need to leave something? It might be a relationship, it might be a job, but they're in that sort of place because there's so many people out there who are sitting halfy.
Well, look, let's look at reality. 2024. You might not be safe in that job anyway. I know people that have been made redundant after 30 years.
I know.
You know, I know people who've put into pension things that haven't turned out. You know, are you really safe?
Yeah, true.
And the only person you can rely on is yourself. You know, you never know what's going to happen. And I think I've just had a little one-to-one with somebody before I came on here that's part of my Greater Later group. And she's in a similar thing. Do I stay or do I go? And I go, so which are you most frightened of? You know, if you can actually put yourself in that position and you're going to stay there for the rest of your life or for another 5 years and think that that's all right, or is that such a frightening consideration, you got to perhaps be creating something else.
Yeah, I love that.
You know, your heart tells you. You know, the world has changed. Your heart tells you. You know, that's it. Your heart tells you. It did me anyway. I couldn't have stayed.
I love that. My one of my heroes that I've read a lot of his work is Wayne Dyer. And one of his sayings is, don't let the music die inside you. And whatever your passion, whatever your thing is, finding that way to take those steps and do it. But, you know, but like you said earlier, our minds might be giving us all of those thoughts and beliefs that you're not good enough and you're thick or you can't. You know, I was told I'm a huge disappointment and I'm not good enough. So, you know, I lived by that for a long time. And challenging that gently, respectfully for yourself, you know, and not just doing it's easy, you know. Again, I don't know about you, Nicky, but you know, you see some of the stuff that's out there at the moment and it sort of portrays that it's just easy to just flick a switch and be something different. And it's obviously takes a lot of work and patience and respect for yourself and kindness to be able to make these changes.
It does. But again, the world has changed. You know, 50 years ago, if you went bankrupt, it was a terrible thing. Now, who gives one? Who gives one? Yeah. Who cares? You know, if you have to fold something and go get a job, who cares? Exactly. The world has changed. We don't look at it. Failed marriage. I remember my mother not wanting me and my sister to play with kids from broken homes. Now, you know, I don't know too many people that have been married forever. You know, the world has changed. And at the end of the day, who is it that evaluates you? You do. You know, I have lost it all. And I remember walking down, it was a big estate in Home Firth when I lost everything. And I remember, and my identity walked out of walked out of those gates, which we've just been talking about. But I just remember walking out and thinking, dear God, I start all over again tomorrow now, and I've lost everything. What's everybody going to think? And then I just thought, balls to what everybody else thinks. What I think, I am my own evaluator, and actually, I think I'm all right, and you should too. Whoever's listening, don't let anybody else who tells you that you're rubbish, who tells you that you're doing the wrong thing, who criticize you, they are projecting onto you their own fears. Yeah. They want you in a particular place for the way that they feel. It's got nothing to do with you. Forgive them, release them, let them go, and then you start being responsible for you, and that's the end of it.
I love that. And I think something that I often talk about is, if you are listening to others' feedback, make sure it's someone that you respect, you like, you rate. Yeah. Because we so often pay attention to things of people who we think, well, actually, when you actually ask yourself the question, do you rate them? Do you think anything of them? No. So why are we interested in what they've got to say about us?
What anybody thinks.
Yeah.
I've got to say something. I'm just laughing at myself. I had these eyelashes stuck on yesterday, and I didn't realise they were that long. My glasses are like halfway down my nose. It's just made me smile. I thought I'd explain myself. You may not even have noticed, but I've told you all anyway. So, yeah, you are we create our own life. I don't give a damn what anybody thinks about me. I genuinely don't care, because half of those people that are whinging about, they think you should be, they haven't walked a mile in your shoes. They don't know you are. They don't know what you've been through. And half of those people giving that could never have coped with what half of the people that I meet have been through.
Exactly.
So, what? And I just want to say one other thing as well. So, oh God, this is going to make me sound arrogant, and I genuinely don't mean to. But look, you've got to decide, what class carriage are you going through life in? Can we make it first class? And if you are wanting to be at the back of the train or the plane, can you please explain that to me? And so I'm going off where I'm going today, and there were no way, even though I wasn't paying for it, and I don't know why I'm telling you this, it's just a way that I think about myself now. We were brought up, you can't have that, you can't, a cup of tea is cheaper than a cup of coffee. I'm sorry, there were no way that I wasn't going to be business first on that flight, because that is where I've positioned myself. When I set up for myself at 45, I used to end my events by going, just one thing I want to promise you. God, it makes me emotional even now, but I used to, I want to promise you, me and my boy, we will walk up the stairs to the aircraft of life, or maybe it's a real one, and we will always turn left. And that makes me emotional when I think of all the times that we have. So it's a question, and it's not just about flying. It's just, I'm flying in a few hours. It's about life. And if anybody tries to tell me they should be at back, and they should be second or third, or not even registering, not even with any value at all, well, I'm sorry, text me, because we need to sit and talk, because I can promise you, I will make sure you know that you are worth a little bit more than perhaps you've been told.
And that's it, isn't it? It's the relationship between what we've been told and ourselves, and believing that you deserve to be on the first, or whatever the context is. I think it's so important, isn't it? And, I think for me, we're all on that sort of conveyor belt of up and down, or up and down about that. As much as I've done work, I can still have times where I feel, less than where I really know I've got to. And I think it's just saying that and being okay with that, because again, that thing about people feeling like they're the only one, it still fascinates me that we get so lost. I mean, the human brain is so selfish, it only ever thinks it's about us, doesn't it?
Yeah
And I think it's, really important. And that's why I created this podcast, is to have conversations like this with people like you, Nicky, so that others can sit there and think, okay, right, it's not just me. And what am I going to do then? What's the one small thing that I can take action on based on what we've talked about?
The other thing is, of course, I'll be talking about this when I get there tomorrow. I never say who I'm working with, but it's a big supermarket chain. And having said all that, money don't make you happy. It's purpose that makes you happy. When we were doing 2 million a year, it's 30 years ago now. They want the brass that made me happy. I just was slightly more comfortable in nice hotels than I would have been. But I'll tell you, and I've been thinking about this as I've gone through my presentation this morning, what makes you happy is the purpose. And on them market stalls, and I've done big jobs with supermarkets, it's when that lady comes in and she's confused and she's upset, and you can go and hold her hand and go, come on, tell us what's happening. Come on, how are you doing? Come on, let me come through here with you. Let me help you with that. And it's how you make people feel better. If you can make people feel better in this world, that's a great purpose. Beyonce might make 20,000 people feel better in a 2-hour gig, but maybe we make people feel better one by one by one with a real, I know it's cliche and I'm not for flowery words, but it's like a heart sharing. That is a purpose in life. So I've not actually contradicted myself there in any way. Because if you can have both, then brilliant. But money alone won't make you happy.
I know. And it is something, like you say, that people are chasing or comparing themselves to others, which again is a disease, isn't it? Comparatinitis is a disease. If you're looking elsewhere, you're thinking everyone else is doing this and that. It just creates more problems for ourselves.
Well, you'd never know you were, Alison. In my life, I've been loaded and I've been absolutely on my ass. Where people have put food on doorstep, it's still me.
Yeah.
I'm no different. And if we see people, if we only give people a value if they've got loads of money, then, people's value is going to go, you're never going to know where you are you? I know who I am, and I'm the same person whether I've got it or whether I haven't got it. That's not how I evaluate myself, which is not a contradiction from what I've just said.
Not at all. Not at all. Oh, thank you so much. What a fantastic conversation. And I know, because I do know some of the people who listen in and they often message me. And I just know that today is just a complete breath of fresh air with you, Nicky.
Oh, I've loved it. Can I just say as well, so I became a bloody pensioner in January. Look, I have a bit of Botox. I don't done yet, but I will be doing. And if anybody's interested, I've got this, and it found me, long story, not for now, but it's greater later. And you can only come if you're over 40, but we have got a new, I don't know when this is going out, we've got a new group starting on the 30th of April. Message me. I only ever take 10 people, 4 places have already gone, but we talk about how to put yourself in the world in a way that you are seen, related to, and get what you chuffing want 40, 50, 60, 70. You don't put yourself in the world at 66 in the same way as you did when you were 22 and expect it to give you what you want. So just message me if anybody wants to come. We'll be running a few in the year, but that's the next one.
Brilliant. Well, we'll put that link to where people can find you in the show notes, Nicky, so everyone can go and have a look.
Oh, fantastic. Well, you've made me day. What a bloody brilliant start today. And do you know what? When I get to Heathrow, I'll raise a little tot to you all. So thank you so much, anybody that's listened, and thanks for having me, Alison.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you so much, Nicky. Thank you for listening and sharing in this episode of Mental Wealth. Remember, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcast. My last question to you is, what is the one small thing that you can take action on from this episode? Message me on Instagram or through our website with questions you'd like me to explore. You'll find the links in the show notes. I'll be back with more tools and tips to make sense of your mind in the next episode. In the meantime, be kind to yourself. Bye for now.